Welcome back. We are moving into Pack 6 for our Commander Legends Chaos Winchester Draft. Urza's AI thing. This is going to be our last pack for this series. We are making this pack specifically to do a Commander Legends style limited pool. It's weird. It's not going to be a full set of cards, and then we make a subset as our pool. We're just generating the pool itself so we can get right into the meat of the game without generating, 600 cards or whatever. It's going to be a bit weird, and we'll see how it works. I hope you join us in the actual gameplay video that comes out next. But until then, we still need to generate this pack. So, with that said, let's get to our first card. Heliod's Intervention is a 7 mana, 0/0 white legendary creature angel. Ooh, okay, that's actually really interesting. Before I even read the card, this is one of our possible commanders. Cool. And it's Heliod's Intervention, which is just an interesting idea of this isn't Heliod, it's an angel that is legendary and known as Heliod's Intervention. When Heliod intervenes, this is the angel that does it, and it's a specific one. It's a legendary. It's not just a thing. It's not just any number of angels. I'm into that naming convention. That's fun. It has flying, it has trample, and Heliod's Intervention enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the number of basic land types among lands you control. That is disappointing. Not only because we're playing Commander Legends, this might go in your 99, but it's not going to be your commander probably with a restriction like that. But let's imagine that you do have all 5 basic land types, which isn't easy, but let's assume you do that. This is only a 5/5. I don't know what a going rate for a 5/5 with flying and trample is. Maybe it is 7 mana. Maybe it is. I don't know. Flying trample is a strong combination. Don't get me wrong, but for 7 mana, ooh, that is... Ugh. He allowed mortals to dwell in a beautiful city built by angels. That is how he made the error of allowing his intervention in a conflict between them. Huh. Interesting. Bad Kopang is a 6 mana, 3/3 red goblin scout. Whenever Bad Kopang deals damage to an opponent, that player discards a card. Ooh, this is worth mentioning. In the last pack that we generated, we saw an enchantment that allowed a creature to tap to deal damage. This was a great example of where that could be useful, in that all you care about is dealing damage. You don't care about dealing combat damage, so pinging for 1 might be more useful. Ignoring that, 6 mana for a 3/3, deal damage, discard, I'm not sure if that's strong enough or not. It is probably going to be pretty hard for this to actually get through and deal the damage, especially if it doesn't come down until turn 6. But a pretty powerful effect, I think. Discarding is just... sucks. Nobody wants to do it. The thick woods make him one with his world. Cool. Step is... ooh, it's a land! And it is... Step is a land. Step enters the battlefield tapped. You can tap it to add white or blue. It's kind of a boring land. It's just a normal land. This is just what lands are like sometimes. This is just a very standard, non-basic land. Nothing interesting, but it is functional, which is sometimes all you can ask for when it comes to lands from Urza's AI. Zendikar's energy never succumbed to Mishra's plans. Yeah, because Mishra's never been to Zendikar, I don't think. Am I wrong? Not that Urza would know that. Tomb Wanderer is a 2 mana, black, 2/1 horror. As long as it's your turn, Tomb Wanderer gets +1/+1 and has black regenerate this creature. Huh. It's a 2 mana, 2/1. On your turns, it's a 2 mana, 3/2, which is pretty okay. If you attack with it and you leave mana open, if your opponent chooses to block, you can regenerate it. If your opponent chooses not to block, it gets through and it's tapped out and you weren't going to block with it anyway. So you can't save it as a blocker and then still regenerate it. And it doesn't block very well anyway because it's only a 2/1. I like this design. This is a good design for a card. Yeah. It's a very, like, obviously aggro card, and it wants you to be attacking into things that your opponent can trade with, and you just don't mind because you're going to regenerate, and they're not. You know what? I say we bring Regenerate back. It's been too long. They travel from the unknown past, arriving on every grave as the end of the world approaches. Like, what would the alternative be? Something like instant speed, put a shield counter on this, I guess. And then, like, at the end of the turn, remove shield counters or something like that. Nah, that's too much work. Just give it Regenerate. Regenerate's a fine mechanic. I know it was confusing. Maybe re-keyword it, like call it something else. I don't know. I like this card. This card's great. Hunted Hoarder is a 3-mana, 3/2 ogre. I just realized I didn't read the name of this set. Crap, I forgot to read it. I'm sorry, everyone who's been waiting for me to say what the name of the pack is. Yes, every one of these packs, we give Urza's AI a name so that they have something to latch onto. This one is called Rot and Ruin, and it's been pretty appropriate so far. Now, us naming it does not influence Urza's AI to make, like, black cards, for example. That's purely based on the pack, and I didn't look at the color distribution of the pack before naming them. Worth pointing out. Apologies. Hunted Hoarder is a 3-mana, 3/2 black ogre. Whenever you cast a creature spell, if it didn't untap during its controller's untap step, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. Okay, let's talk about this. That's a lot of stuff. 3 mana for a 3/2, okay. When you cast a creature spell, if I assume the creature spell, didn't untap during its controller's untap step, which it couldn't have, it's a creature spell, and you just cast it, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. So, whenever you cast a creature spell, cheat out another creature. If that creature that you cast had, I guess, flash, you could cast it during combat so that it would come into play tapped and attacking, but otherwise it just shows up tapped. It can't be and attacking because you're not during combat. This card's busted and cool, and I like it. Like a tree carved into bone, it'll never forget its roots. What? Alright. Doom Thieves Hideout is a 4-mana black sorcery. It has Devoid and draw 2 cards. 4-mana, draw 2. Yeah. It's a sorcery speed spell. I don't know if I mentioned that. To make an ambush that gets the job done, you need something with staying power. Hana Strom. Okay. Cool. Dungeon Map. Did they make an actual card called Dungeon Map? I feel like they might have. Dungeon Map is a 2-mana colorless artifact. Whenever a player taps a basic land for mana, that player adds 1 mana of any type that land produced. I assume that's additional. Okay. So, all basic lands produce 2 instead of 1 now. For both players. That's scary. Maybe you can take more advantage of that than your opponent. Like, if you've got mana sinks and your opponent's, like, out of cards in hand, so they can only, like, play 1 card a turn anyway or something, and they only have, like, 2 drops, and you've got, like, 5 drops. Yeah, there's a way to make that symmetrical effect more effective in your favor. That's cool. Yeah, maybe you do combine it with, like, discard effects so your opponent has less options, so you can, like, play with your whole hand and your opponent can't. The first to die must survive. Phyllis Show Biologist. Does that say STSSSHO? Show. I don't know if that's a word or not. It might be. It's a cool card. I don't know if it gets played or not because it's, like, risky, but cool. Symmetrical effects are fun. Kendra Devastator is a 5 mana, 4/4 black dwarf. With generic and black, destroy target tapped creature. Pretty good. 2 generic and a black. Kenra Devastator gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Very expensive fire breathing. But you can just blow up tapped creatures. This card's amazing. The Scars of War tattoo the skin of the defeated. Ugh. Yeah, I guess that's accurate. Pirate Swindler is a 6 mana, 2/3 blue merfolk wizard, not pirate, with tap, draw a card, then discard a card. This card would be pretty cool if it was a bit cheaper. It's not good. You're so easily fooled, ain't you? Never mind. What? Alright, cool. Elspeth Knight Errant is a 3 mana, 2/2 black legendary creature vampire rogue. Okay, we got our other commander from the pack. Legendary Elspeth Knight Errant, who is a vampire rogue. Alright, I'm kind of into Elspeth being a vampire rogue. Urza's AI, the more I think of it, the more I'm thinking of these cards kind of like weird, like, almost like skins. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're playing like a MOBA, and it's just like, this is the version of this character, except for this time they're a vampire, and they're not usually. They just are, don't worry about it. Like, yeah, Elspeth's a vampire in this alternate reality. Sure, why not? Elspeth Knight Errant can't be blocked except by creatures with flying. Cool, it doesn't have flying herself, but can't be blocked unless they have flying. I'm into that. It's a fun mechanic. You don't see it that often, but it's a cool one. 3 mana, and exile 2 cards from your graveyard. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on Elspeth Knight Errant. I like this card. 3 mana 2/2 is not so bad. They have evasion. They don't have flying themselves, but that's okay. They just want to attack in. They don't want to be, yeah. It limits what can block them, not what they can block. Cool. Then, 3 mana and exiling 2 cards. That's cool. It is from your graveyard, so you have to be filling your bin with stuff so that you can exile it. But yeah, 3 mana, put 2 1/1 counters. That's going to grow fast. Other than the fact that you have this really legitimately strong limitation of having to exile cards from your graveyard. Like, often you're just going to find you have no cards in your graveyard to exile, and that's going to be the issue here, not the mana. But I like it. I think this is a cool card. Definitely a build around, which is the whole point of Commander. She cuts throats with silver, forks with steel, and gets the money to boot. What? Alright, sure. We're into it. Manipulative Worm is a 5 mana, 5/3 worm. It's vanilla. It's just a 5/3 for 5. Some grew out of necessity. Some grew out of cunning. And some just grew. Nice. Alright, cool. I'm into it. Vault of the Archdruid is a land. It taps to add colorless, or you can send 4 generic and tap it to add black or red. So, the absolute worst color filtering ever. It's really bad. The miracle of blood that is eternal life is short-lived. Okay. Yeah, this card's never getting played. Oh well. We got a 3rd legendary in this pack. Lord of Light is a 7 mana white 5/4 legendary angel with flying and haste. Other creatures you control have double strike. Whoa! Okay! Lord of Light. Move over, Helionod's intervention. Yeah, that's what your name was. 7 mana, 5/4 flying haste. Other creatures you control have double strike. Okay. Okay. Yeah, if you've already got a board, this does a thing to turn it comes into play, because if you play it in your pre-combat main phase, then yeah, everything gets double strike that turn. And then it's a flying haste creature. Oh, it even gets to attack that turn. This card's great. May the other creatures fly away from me, and may I be merciful to those who try to stop me. May I be merciful. Wow. Lord of the Light sounds like a jerk. Alright, let's move on. I didn't expect a third legendary. That's awesome. Static Shaman. That's cool. I like Static. Is a 6-mana red 4/4 Phyrexian Human Artificer. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, create a 3/3 colorless Phyrexian Golem artifact creature token. For 3 mana and sacrifice an artifact, draw a card. Okay, yeah, totally. 6 mana 4/4. When you cast an artifact, you make an additional 3/3, and you can sack your artifacts to get cards. This card's cool. Not a commander, isn't legendary, but a very cool card. Probably too expensive, just 6 mana is a lot of mana. Like, it doesn't matter how strong the card is, 6 mana is a lot of mana, but it is a cool card. I like it. I kind of wish they were legendary. That'd be a fun thing to build around. I will speak only the words of power. Cool. No, that thing was rad. I'm into that. Charging Centaur is a 5-mana 2/4 green centaur druid. At the beginning of each combat, if you gain control of a creature with flying, Charging Centaur gets +3/+3 on the turn. What is that restriction? That is so weird. I mean, okay, so casting a creature spell, you don't gain control of it, you just always had control of it. So I don't think you have to actually be using like a spell that says gain control of target creature. Here's my problem with this card. It says if you gained control of a creature with flying. It doesn't say like this turn or like even this game. It just says if you did this. Does it mean right now? Like, I kind of want to re-roll this one. Maybe this card is actually written perfectly correctly, but it is very weird. And I don't think the trigger has a appropriate like duration. At the beginning of each combat, if you've gained control of a creature with flying. I'm re-rolling this one. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't. Like, it's kind of, I don't know. Like, I want to commit to the bit of, like, we are seeing what the AI does. We are not influencing it. So maybe I shouldn't. And yes, admittedly, this card is bad. It is a 5-mana 5/7 if you've gained control of a creature with flying this turn. But I think that the ambiguity of like what does it mean to have gained control of a creature with flying, yeah, it just says ever. I don't know. I'm re-rolling it. Her battles will become your battles and your victories her victories. Sorry, Centaur Druid. I think Centaur Druids are cool. Varuna's Apprentice is a 5-mana 4/3 insect druid. That's pretty cool too. You may put an enchantment card from your hand onto the battlefield. If you do, draw a card. You may have Varuna Apprentice fight target creature you control. Both of those don't have triggers. They just said you can do this. If they were costs, if it was like, cost, put an enchantment card from your hand onto the battlefield, draw a card, then that would be fine. And if it says cost, like, Varuna's Apprentice fights target creature you control, the fact that you can, like, there's no... Yeah, that's weird. If these were written as costs, this would be a really interesting card. Or if they were like 0 mana, you may do this. 0 mana, you may do this. I think technically there's no trigger, so we have to re-roll them. But if you interpret these as 0 mana, kinda cool. I like the idea of saying, like, you may have your creature fight another creature you control. There's very little fight other creatures you control in Magic, and it's always kind of really interesting, like with like Enrage and stuff. Like, I don't know, it's really cool, but yeah, weird. Do not fret over the coming years. Leave that to me. My apprentices will care for you. Varuna. Yeah, I think I have to let it go. It would be interesting if these were zero mana activated abilities, or the cost was putting the enchantment card from your hand on the battlefield and the effect was drawing a card. But there's, I don't know. I can't accept it, I don't think. It's too much editorializing. Broken River Dread is a 5-mana 3/4 green beast. For green, regenerate Broken River Dread. As long as Broken River Dread is enchanted, each player keeps the top card of their library hidden. What? Does that, like, override things that let you, like, look at the top card of your library? I mean, it would still be hidden. It just wouldn't be... If you had an effect that said, play with the top card of your library revealed, okay, and the card didn't otherwise say you can look at the top card of your library, I think you wouldn't be able to look at the top card of your library if this was on the battlefield, which is, like, very weird hate tech, but okay, yeah, sure, that's cool. Okay, I mean, it's a 5-mana 3/4, it's not great, but it can regenerate, which is kind of cool. I don't know, I'm into it. Those in the rivers know how to swim, but not everyone makes it to dry land. Yeah, Broken River Dread is an interesting name for a beast. It does feel almost legendary in a way of like, oh, don't go out into the river. The Broken River Dread's out there. Like, what the heck are you talking about? I don't know. It's the thing you're dreading that is in the Broken River. Any number of the things that are out there. All of the weird sea beasts. Yeah, alright, that kind of works. I buy it. Vanquish is a 3-mana white instant. Destroy target non-creature artifact. It can't be regenerated. Huh. Non-creature artifact. That kind of sucks. Oh well. From an artifact shattered pieces, I mold the weapon of war. From a sky sail's gaff, I craft a safe harbor. Alejandro, Master Navigator. Feed the Swarm. That's a real name, right? That sounds so familiar. I think that's a real card. Feed the Swarm is a 1-mana black sorcery. Choose one. Create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Cool. 1-mana 2/2. Or sacrifice 2 black creatures. Weirdly enough, this card's kind of cool. Like, yeah, it's super weird. Like, it's so weird. You're not gonna use sacrifice 2 black creatures, are you? But maybe you are. Like, sometimes you do just want to sacrifice your own stuff. You can't just do that. It's not something you're allowed to do without an effect of, like, making you do it. So, for only 1 mana, you might do that. There might be a fringe situation where you care about just sacrificing your own stuff. And then the rest of the time, it's a 1-mana 2/2. Who's going to say no to a 1-mana 2/2? We all love a 1-mana 2/2. Great. Oh, let me in. There are already too many swarms about. Thaddeus Trollbane. Thaddeus Trollbane, that's so funny. It very much feels like some guy who, like, named themselves, I'm Trollbane. I slay monsters. I'm the greatest. And then it's just like panic. Oh, that's really good. That's really good. Obad Hell is a 5-mana colorless 3/5 legendary creature horror. Another legendary? This has been a wild pack. Okay. Legendary creature horror. Colorless horror creature. For 1 generic, until end of turn, Obad Hell gets +2/+2, gains menace, and becomes a Gorgon in addition to its other types. So it's a 5-mana 3/5 that you can spend 1 to give +2/+2. But that's repeatable. It's not like you can only activate that once per turn or anything. So it just has really, really powerful fire breathing. This card's terrifying. Also has Menace? Wow, becoming a Gorgon is weird, but sure. Do I have to draw Obad Hell? I have no idea what that's going to look like, and that's kind of why I want to draw it. She always wore a dead body in her arms. Now she fills the coffin with hope. She wore a dead body? What does that mean? I think I have to draw Obad Hell. Holy crap, what is this? I mean, a horror can be anything. Horrors can be anything. That is... wow. Stained Angel is a 3-mana, 2/1 white angel with flying and lifelink. Tap. Exile target artifact, creature, or land. Holy crap. What? No, you're illegal. I mean, I guess at least it doesn't have haste. Like, it has to sit on the battlefield for a full turn before it gets to do its thing, but dang, that is wow. 3-mana, 2/1, flying, lifelink, and you can tap it to... okay, yeah. Or land? I didn't make any rules against land destruction this time. I don't think I did. Did I do that and forget? I might have. That sounds like a thing I would have done. The Great Conduit summons ethereal spirits that sacrifice their own bodies to power the waterfall. Alright, sure. Stained Angel. Stonegorger Blitz is a 5-mana red sorcery. Put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. As long as it's your turn, untap all creatures you control and gain control of all creatures that blocked them this turn. What? What? So, second main phase. So, combat. You attack with, like, a 2/5, a 2/5, and a 2/5, let's say. I don't know if you have any of those, but let's say you do. And your opponent says, sure, I'll block your 2/5s with my 3/3s. Nobody dies. Everyone's happy. It's whatever. Nothing matters. Then, second main, you put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures, which are 2 of your 2/5s. As long as it's your turn, which I assume means as you cast this spell, because it's not a permanent. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I am wrong. As long as it's your turn, no, that's how sorceries are worded. As long as it's your turn, untap all creatures you control. So all those things you attacked with gained vigilance, great, and gain control of all creatures that blocked them this turn. Important to note that you didn't have to put the 1/1 counters on those creatures. So it's not like only 2 creatures worth of blocks are getting to steal something. It's all of the creatures that untap. It does mean, however, that your creatures have to not die. Like, if you had, like, 1/1s and they just died in the block, you wouldn't be able to steal those. Maybe if you had, like, maybe if you could give this flash, I guess you could say, blockers are declared. Great, I'm going to now cast Stonegorger's Blitz. But it is sorcery, so you couldn't do that. This card's cool. I don't know if it works or not, but it's very cool, and I like it. Wrath is mine. If you're tired of having all the fun, I've got more where that came from. Diona Izzet Mage. Diona sounds cool. Well, that brings us to the end of our last pack. Please join me next week for the actual draft and gameplay of this Commander Legends Winchester draft that I'm going to be playing with B. I'm excited. It's going to be weird, and there's a lot of weird options for commanders. I'm excited to see how it plays out. I hope you join me. We play Urza's AI on this channel all the time. If you haven't checked it out before, please subscribe. I'd appreciate it. I don't like doing the YouTube shill thing, but I'm a very small channel, and YouTube won't even let me monetize my videos. I think there's ads on my videos, and YouTube just gets the money, and I get nothing, and it's the stupidest thing. Anyway, have a good night. Except for don't yet. No, you should. You should have a good night. Sorry, that's not what I meant. I'm sorry. I apologize. I need to do a draw still. I think I will be doing Owl Hall. I don't think there's much to say about it. I think this card is just very, very silly, and I would like to have it be the thing I draw. There was a bunch of other good options, but look at this thing! It's a horror that turns into a Gorgon for no reason. What does that mean? What does that mean? I need to find out what that looks like. I need to. And it took a long time to figure out what that looks like. Like, I struggled. I had so many attempts of, like, what is a horror that turns into a Gorgon? Why is it not just a Gorgon? What does that mean? And eventually, I landed on this very weird take of, well, the flavor text mentions, like, being in a coffin? What if they are a coffin with a Gorgon in it? And not just, like, are a coffin, but, like, a weird eldritch horror coffin. So, yeah, I blocked in a coffin shape. I gave it weird little legs. I had the front of the coffin ajar, and snakes are coming out of it. There's goo pouring forth. It is suitably gross, I hope. That is the goal. It's also, if we look at horrors in Magic, there's no unifying theme. They could be anything. But one thing shows up more than anything else, and that is eyeballs. So I made the coffin, the wood of the coffin, I gave it, like, knots, and I made sure all the knots looked very eye-like, which I thought was a fun little touch. And it is just a mess. I actually did, like, a weird scribble of just random lines, just to give myself, like, a weird base, and then I went over those with actual shapes, not just scribbles. I think it was actually a pretty good technique. I would definitely try it again if I needed something that's just a mass of snakes, honestly. I started throwing in the color. I wanted to emphasize that it is colorless, and to me, being colorless is largely being any color, in a weird way. Like, a colorless card can go in any deck, right? So it's kind of like being every color. But I also wanted to make sure I desaturated everything, so it's all these, like, really, really gray, light colors. Nothing rich, nothing deep. Now, all of the sort of snake shapes, which I don't know if they're actually snakes or if they're, like, Gorgon hair. If we look at Gorgons in Magic, the most, well-known, of course, are, like, Vraska and the Gorgons from Ravnica, which don't actually have snake hair. They have snake-like hair, right? They're not actually snakes like we see in a lot of mythology and depictions. I did want to make sure I wanted to make it, like, as wet as possible as well, so I put a lot of white highlight on this, especially on the snakes and the goo inside. Here we're seeing the eyes come in. I guess it was kind of a afterthought, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. Yes, they're just nuts, but also no, they can see you. They can definitely see you, and they're looking at you, and they're going to... Yeah. Once everything's suitably wet, I of course go in with the Multiply to darken out any shadows, to really add some contrast to the highlights and the lowlights. And that's the whole thing. I'm really proud of how it turned out. It is weird. It is very weird, and it took a long time to figure out on this design, so... That's the last of the draft and draw. I hope you enjoyed. I don't know if I'll be doing this again. It sort of depends on the reception of this, so, if you like it, leave a like. If you didn't, I understand. It's different from my other content. I'm trying things out. Appreciate you being here all the same. Have a very good night.